Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're going to talk about Tulsa, like everybody else, I'm sure. The difference is, I'm going to try to keep the jokes to a minimum. I mean, there's no way to talk about this and it not be funny, but I'm going to try to keep the jokes to a minimum because something actually important happened there. Something we should really be talking about, because Trump, without a doubt, displayed that he is completely unfit to lead anything, ever. But because what happened is so funny, we're all so busy laughing, we're not really talking about the important thing that happened. To get to the important thing, though, we do have to go through the chain of events. Yeah. So, before we get into that, we need to just kind of remind ourselves that before any of this actually started, there was already controversy because of the date and the location and the fact that right now it's a really bad idea to pack a whole bunch of people together in a building tightly like that. That's not a good idea right now. Keep that in mind as we talk about this. Okay. So the chain of events goes like this. Trump says there's going to be giant crowds because 1 million people are interested in it or whatever. Yeah, he blew the numbers out of proportion. He exaggerated. It's Trump. We know he does it. That's not a big deal. The realistic number of people that were interested was like 800,000. Kind of, but that's not true either. We'll get to that. With that number, had that number been true, you could reasonably expect like 100,000 people, right? So you would have to prepare for that. The venue only holds 20,000. So they built a stage outside to handle the overflow of the just swarms of the great unwashed masses that would be traveling from all over the country to come see Dear Leader. Okay. 6,200 people showed up, as reported by Forbes. 6,200. So we go 1,800,000, 100,000, 6,200. Yes, it's funny. Make all the jokes you want. Okay, so how did that happen? Because the Trump campaign is completely out of touch with America. The demographic that he likes to make fun of, and that he and his crew call millennials, they're not, but whatever. You know, the ones that he paints as lazy and, you know, can't get anything done, those people, they trolled him. They trolled him. They used multiple email addresses to express interest and request tickets. So it gave them this inflated number that was completely unrealistic, and they should have known that. But they didn't, because they are out of touch with America. This little gag that the younger Americans were playing on Trump was not a secret. It was all over Twitter. There are TikTok videos with like 1 million views talking about it. Everybody knew this was happening except the Trump campaign, apparently. So they get their 6,200 people there. Yeah, they had to tear down the stage outside. It never got used. They didn't have to give 2 speeches. But this is where it gets serious. A venue for 20,000 people. And they had 6,200. What did they do? They packed them all together anyway. With a crowd as tiny as Trump's hands, they packed them together anyway. They could have socially distanced. They could have spread them out. They could have led. They could have protected the health of the country, the health of their biggest supporters. But they didn't. They chose not to for a photo op, to appease Trump's ego, to make it look like he was speaking to a huge crowd. Like we wouldn't notice that the top of it was pretty much empty. Jeopardized the health of their biggest supporters. And apparently nobody on the campaign thought to space them out. to try to protect him, to try to mitigate the danger they had put him in, even though they had him sign a waiver. Because they don't care. They don't care about the average voter. They care about Trump and that ego. If he is willing to jeopardize the health of his biggest supporters, he is certainly willing to jeopardize national security, the economy, or standing on the international stage for his own interests. He showed his true self there. He jeopardized his biggest supporters. This isn't a red state, blue state thing. Everybody there was on his team and did nothing to protect them. You know, and from a PR standpoint, think about it just from public relations. Had they spread people out, it wouldn't have looked so empty. And yeah, well, yeah, it's a small crowd, but, you know, we had to stop letting people in because we want to keep people safe. I mean, yeah, that would have been a lie, but it's the Trump administration. They're going to lie anyway. So, I mean, that doesn't really factor into it. They could have kept people safe, and he chose not to for his own ego. That's embarrassing. That is embarrassing. He could have protected the country. He could have protected Tulsa. But he chose not to. For a photo op. For a fail of a rally. He's not fit to lead anything. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good night.